Hey guys, today I'm at a unique place in India called the Jantar Mantar. Now, what is Jantar Mantar? Is it an ancient temple? No, the Jantar Mantar is an astronomical observatory built about 300 years ago. The specialty of this is twofold. One, most of the astronomical instruments are very large, so large you can walk inside the instruments and do your calculations. Two, these instruments were created based on ancient Indian astronomy. The very first instrument built in the Jantar Mantar is this device. Can you tell me what this is? As you can see, there is nothing here, just a ramp pointing to the sky at an angle. What is it? This mysterious device is called the Dhruva Darshak Yantra. It roughly means a Polaris telescope. Every night between 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., if you put your eye here at this spot, you will see the Polaris or the North Star exactly on the other end. Why was this built first? Because unlike the sun, moon, planets, and all other stars, the North Star is the only star that stays fixed. Everything else moves around, but the North Star is almost perfectly aligned with the North Celestial Pole or the axis of rotation. Now, why do I say they built this first? Without it, you cannot build anything else. Now, let's go back in time 1,000 years ago. Let's say you were traveling and you're lost and the sun has set. How do you tell the directions and return home? First, you have to find the North Star. This would be the very first thing to do because everything else moves except this, right? Once you locate the North Star, you now have all four directions. Then you will have a rough idea of how to get back, and then you can use the other stars, constellations, and the moon to be more accurate. And remember, Jantar Mantar is based on ancient astronomy, so they followed the same technique. First, they built this, and now they would have all four directions and the celestial poles. Now, if I recreate this ancient device at my house, will it work? And you may say, Praveen, what is there to recreate? It is just a ramp, right? No, if I take the ramp from Jantar Mantar and put it in my house, I will not be able to see the North Star. It will not work. So I had to modify this to make it look like this. This is the Dhruva Darshak Yantra I have recreated, and if I put my eye at this end and look on the other side, you see, that is the North Star. I've made this a little bit fancy by putting a scope and crosshairs at the end, but it is the same thing. And you can see the North Star there. By the way, today, even during daytime, you can use apps to see the location of any star, including the Polaris. So I have recreated this successfully, but you can see that this angle is much smaller than the angle of the device at Jantar Mantar. Why is that, right? The original device is at Jantar Mantar in Jaipur in North India. And I live in Chennai, which is about 1,200 miles away. In Jaipur, the angle of the North Star is at 27 degrees. In Chennai, the angle of the North Star is only 13 degrees. So I had to reduce this angle almost by 50% at my house. So if I take the ramp from Jaipur and put it in Chennai, I cannot see the North Star. It will point somewhere else. So I had to change this angle to 13 degrees at Chennai. Now, if I ask you, what is the latitude of Chennai city? Can you tell me what it is? Latitudes are horizontal lines on the globe. When we talk about any location, we ask them, what are your coordinates? What is your latitude and longitude? So, what's the latitude of Chennai city? It is 13 degrees. And what's the latitude of Jaipur city? It is 27 degrees. The angle at which you see the North Star is the latitude of your location. If you're in New York, you can see the North Star at 40 degrees, and that's your latitude. Now, I just Googled my city's latitude and I built the ramp at a 13-degree angle. But if you're lost, like Tom Hanks in Castaway, and if you want to know your latitude, you can find the North Star in the sky, build a crude ramp, and from that angle, you can have your approximate latitude. But this opens up a lot of questions, right? Let's say you're watching this video from Singapore. Where will you see the North Star? And you can ask, what is special about Singapore? It is located on the equator, meaning the latitude is about 0 degrees. It's actually 1.3 degrees in Singapore, but imagine it is 0 degrees. Imagine you are located exactly on the equator. At what angle will you build the ramp? Where will you see the North Star? You will see the Polaris at the horizon at 0 degrees. So no ramp or slope will be needed. You can use a flat plane and see the North Star at the horizon. Here's a follow-up question. What about the people living in the southern hemisphere? Will they see the North Star? No, it won't be visible to them. And is there a South Star? No, they don't have a South Star either. So with a simple ramp pointing to the North Star, we can understand a lot of things about astronomy. So before the advent of modern technology, whenever people tried to study astronomy, they built the Polaris telescope first. A classic case of this is a mysterious castle in the US called the Coral Castle. It was built single-handedly by one man. This reclusive man's name is Edward Leeds Callan. So when he began building the Coral Castle, what was the first thing he did? He built a Polaris telescope. This is a monolithic, megalithic telescope that points to the North Star. It's very large, and inside the circle you can see crosshairs. And at nighttime you can see the North Star exactly in the center of the intersection. Did he create this megalithic telescope inspired by Indian Yantra, or did he model this after something else? Because Edward Leeds Callan noted that he built the Polaris telescope first before he built other astronomical devices like the sundial. Now, you have to allow some margin for errors in this video. In reality, exact science is never exact science. There's approximations and assumptions involved. For example, the North Star is not completely stationary. It does rotate a little bit. And it gets more interesting because the Polaris will not even be the North Star forever. So when I say the Polaris always points north, it's only true for a few thousand years. 5,000 years ago, the North Star, the guiding star, was another star called Thuban. And in 13,000 years, there will be a new North Star called Vega. And after 26,000 years, Polaris will again become the North Star. This is because the Earth spins like a top. We don't want to use fancy terms like axial precession, but things move around a lot. So don't think everything will be precise in astronomy. For example, the latitude at the Jantar Mantar is not exactly 27 degrees. It will have decimal places, and you should understand this and give room for error if you want to truly understand ancient science. And the Polaris telescope is not really a telescope. It's only a viewing instrument. But you can see how, by constructing a simple ramp pointing to the North Star, we have understood a lot of things. Now you have an anchor, a fixed point around the ever-moving complex celestial objects. And after this, you can create all the other instruments based on this instrument. So this simple ramp called the Dhruva Darshak Yantra or the Polaris telescope was possibly the oldest astronomical instrument in the world. We don't know where it was first used. It could have even been used in Egypt, and it could have even pointed to a different North Star. But this instrument would have been the beginning point of all astronomy. I hope you like this video. I am PraveenMohan. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.